Good afternoon, everyone, and I'd like to welcome everybody to the September meeting of the Murfreesboro Parks and Recreation Commission. And it's our pleasure and honor, I'd like to call on Dr. Gloria Bonner for our prayer and pledge.
Thank you so much. And we're excited to see our education leaders here. We're off to a good start, and thank you for keeping everybody safe.
Great start.
May we pray. Father, we give you glory this day. We give you honor, for there is no God like you. So we thank you for your faithfulness toward us. We thank you for your love toward us. We thank you for the leadership and fellowship of the Parks and Rec Commission, the executive team, and the committed and dedicated staff for making a real difference in the quality of life throughout our community. Grant us the courage and strength to live by your word as servants after your own heart, and to know what it means to love you fully and completely. These blessings and others we ask in your Son's name. Amen. Amen. May we stand for the pledge.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Well done, Dr. Bonner. Thank you so much. And so, commission members, in front of you, you have minutes from our last meeting. I'll give you a second to look at those, and then I'll entertain a motion that we accept, and a second, I hope. Do I have a motion to accept?
Mr. Chair, I so move.
And a second?
Second.
All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? There are none. Okay, we'll move right on into new business. And we've got a few introductions, and first I'll kick that off. We are very fortunate to have two new commission members here. We have Councilman Shane Wright, who is joining us, and he's going to be our new color man since he's replacing Rick LaLand. We know he and Rick are good buddies, and Shane's one of our favorite councilmen, so thank you for joining us. Look forward to it. And back probably for his third tour on this commission, I think, we have Bill Shacklett, Vice Mayor. And we're glad to have you back, Bill. And has it been 3 times here? Or
this is third time.
Third time around, yeah. I think I've been here for most of it.
You have.
Glad to have you back. Your smiling face.
Oh, glad to be here.
Great influence, and thank you so much. And then, Nate, you've got an introduction with the new associate.
Thank you, Chairman. I'd like to take just a second to introduce Mr. Eric Quiros. Eric has joined us. He is the new superintendent of the Adams Tennis Complex. Eric comes with a lot of tennis experience, extensive tennis facility management experience, all the way from Eugene, Oregon. He's joined us in Murfreesboro, so we're glad to have him and his family here in Murfreesboro. He's been on for about a month and doing a tremendous job in helping us lay out what the vision is for the Adams Tennis Complex moving forward. And Eric, would you like to say anything?
Absolutely. Working here is just amazing to me because Nate and Thomas have reached out to me, made sure my family's okay. The city manager came down to make sure everything is good with me personally and that I feel welcome. The culture here is amazing. And what motivated me to move here was the infrastructure and the opportunities and all the enrichment things that are going on. And I hope to contribute to that with tennis. So thank you so much for making me feel so welcome. And I hope to continue that work culture within my work group as well. So thank you again.
Glad to have you, Eric.
He told me before the meeting he hasn't said y'all yet, so we've got to get him really on board with the dialect here in Murfreesboro.
Very good. Well, what a great facility you have over there. So we're very proud of it, and we're proud to have you here. Thank you. Okay, first item of new business. Nate, you want to go over the financial statement?
Yes, Mr. Chairman, if I could just draw attention just to the agenda real quick. I asked the chairman earlier if we can move item number 6 to the second item.
Okay.
Mr. Huddleston is here, so he'll do that right after I'm done with this. And we appreciate Mr. Huddleston being here. But before you is our end of the year 2021-2022 fiscal year report. There should be no surprises. We've been reporting on this throughout the past year, every month or every other month of where we stand. We've had a great year. I've also provided you just kind of a 5-year snapshot chart of how we've performed over the past 5 years and how this year compares. This is, we've been saying all year this has been the busiest we've ever been, and I think our revenues show that. I think we've added some new facilities such as the improvements at the Siegel Soccer Complex. We've expanded the amount of programs that we're doing in summer camps and across the board, our facility programs. And also our staff has done a tremendous job adding new things that you see all the time to our offering of programs and events. So the credit is due to the staff that has worked hard to make this happen and continue to contribute to what's going on. So like I said, that is just a snapshot of where we stand at the end of the year. We're pleased with the performance, and I'd be glad to answer any questions you have.
Any questions for Nate?
Mr. Chairman, I just think, just to add a comment to the numbers, I think they pretty much speak for themselves, but as Nate just very modestly mentioned, we had an outstanding revenue year. And regardless of what you say, Nate, that doesn't happen by accident. I know your group works hard on that. It certainly makes things a little bit easier to deal with. You're always wishing that you'd be closer on your projections and so forth, but you're always in good shape when you're on the plus side of things like that. And so I just want to say, as one member of the commission, that thank you for your group, its hard work, and the results of that hard work, because that's what those revenue numbers speak to.
Thank you.
For sure. Any other comments for Nate? Again, outstanding report. And thank you to our staff that makes it all happen too. So we couldn't do it without the staffs and all the many programs and facilities. And there are many.
If I can just say one more thing, Mr. Chairman, our staff rebounded from the COVID years, which you can see a dip in what we were dealing with, but they never wavered in how we came back, and the approach of how we came back from this has been steadfast, and I can't say enough about them. And then also our finance team, who keeps us in order. You don't get to see them much back at our main office, but they keep us on track throughout the course of the year and putting everything together, and we appreciate that.
All right. Very good. Good report. Next on the agenda, Sam, as Nate mentioned, we're going to bring up Sam Huddleston. We're going to move him up a little bit, and Sam's going to give us a report on the Puckett Creek property donation and veterans property swap.
I apologize to our staff member had that PowerPoint pulled up and ready to go, and I'm going to pop this one in and just have a few slides. So Chairman Miller, members of the Parks and Recreation Commission, glad to be here today. Just to give you a quick update on a few things going on some property acquisition, and as it relates to Parks and Rec. So first item is to talk about the Puckett Creek Park property. That's not an official name, but perhaps a placeholder for us as we look at this properties. Here, and what you have before you is a map of the vicinity area. There are two parcels that we have there. The northernmost or red parcel that we refer to as a cornerstone property, and then the parcel outlined in blue below that is the Evergreen Farms parcel. And I'll share just some information on those. So the first property is a 12-acre parcel. We purchased it in 2017. We actually used money from our stormwater fund to do that. At the time, we didn't have a specific plan in mind, but talked about purchasing that for general park and open space preservation. It contains about 900 linear feet of Puckett Creek and also the floodplain and floodway. And from a water quality and floodplain and floodway management standpoint, this property gives us an opportunity to protect and enhance and preserve those. And then while the upland part of that also gives some flexibility to how that might be programmed and used in the future. It's generally low-growing scrub growth, fairly overgrown today. There's a sewer line that crosses through there that keeps that part at least partially maintained. But if you were to decide to want to walk that property today, it'd be a pretty tough interaction. But it is a good sized piece of property and would have some potential use in the future with some programming by the Parks and Rec staff. Second property then would be an approximate 12-acre parcel to the south. That property is a portion of what's being developed as Evergreen Farms, and as we obtained the north property in 2017, and looking at how it might interact and connect to the Evergreen Farms property, we reviewed the development plans with the developer and started a conversation where the city would be interested in maybe acquiring or taking ownership of some of the land that the developer didn't use. And again, the developer had programmed for their amenity center and some open space, and so we suggested to them that we would be interested in acquiring that amenity center and the floodplain and floodway and then the actual stream part of Puckett Creek, and they were able to manage that through their development plan. It currently has, with the subdivision construction, currently has a plan for a pavilion and a playground. That work is ongoing, and it'll be certainly a few months before that particular work is finished and the infrastructure development for the roads and lot would be finished. We want to make sure that the parcel had access to water and sewer, so it's possible that the city might add restroom facilities at a later date with those utility connections close by in the public road. With those planned amenities and then just the general area being managed as park and open space, this property contains about 1,700 linear feet of Puckett Creek itself, and then the floodplain and floodway, all of which give us some opportunities for enhancement and protection of that water resource, and also for the management of the floodplain. Be glad to answer any questions or hear any discussion on these two properties, and then certainly Mr. Williams and his staff may have some observations on it as well.
Questions for Sam? Or Nate, you have any comments?
I would just, again, thank you, Mr. Huddleston, for coming and explaining that. This is something we're excited about, especially when it's a piece of property that's next to an existing piece of property that we can preserve and be able to program and expose maybe some of our more natural resource areas. So it's something we're excited about. This is something that has been in the works for some time, but we just wanted to provide you an update with what was coming down the pipe.
And shame on me for not having done this earlier, but let me give you a little context where this is, and that's why I had this original map up. So this is on the western edge of the Evergreen Farms development. To the left in this picture is Rucker Lane, which is a north-south connection, and then to the right would be the Evergreen Farm subdivision and its development in there. Let's see, I'll think of the name of that elementary school on St. Andrews Drive in a minute. Scales Elementary. Scales Elementary is also.
Glad I could remember it.
Yeah, there you go. Thanks for the assist there, Dr. Duke. But certainly Scales Elementary and Evergreen Farms and St. Andrews Drive would be to the right in our picture. And what's interesting to me as I look at this is the number of rooftops that are within walking distance, biking distance, and very convenient to this property. And so part of the discussion we had with the developer of Evergreen Farms was to take a look at how the Cason trailhead was developed, and I think that's been a very successful park element for our residents, and having very convenient access again to the rooftops there in the west side of Murfreesboro. And then the second property Mr. Williams asked me to give you an update on is the Middle Tennessee Electric property. And as you know, or as you may be aware, the city and Middle Tennessee Electric agreed some time back to swap properties in the Veterans Parkway 840 area of Murfreesboro. And so I will give you a little vicinity background here before I move off of this overall picture, but the highlighted property there is currently owned by Middle Tennessee Electric. It is has frontage on Veterans Parkway to the west. That's Overall Creek to the east. I hope I didn't put Puckett Creek in the slide, but I think I did, so that was maybe confusion from the last one, so I'll correct that now. It is immediately south of the Berkshire subdivision, and then also shares a property line immediately north of the Cloister. This is approximately a half a mile from the 840 interchange with Veterans Parkway, a very significant area of growth and development, and really something that for since the very time that interchange was planned, we viewed this as a western entryway into the west part of Murfreesboro, and so it's a very important corridor to our community. And so that's the subject property, is 150 acres, currently owned by Middle Tennessee Electric. And so a little bit of background here. That land swap was approved in June of this year for 117 acres that the city currently owns at the 840 and Veterans Parkway interchange with Burnt Knob and Blackman Road and Vaughn Road being the adjacent streets. In accordance with that agreement, and the agreement looks like a real estate contract. The swap of these properties are scheduled to close on December the 31st, and as with any property transaction, there's a period of time for both sides to consider their due diligence and the conditions of the approval and conditions of the contract. And so we're really in the due diligence stage. We've shared information back and forth between Middle Tennessee Electric and city staff on information we have on these properties, and we continue to review the properties. It's just a shade under 150 acres according to the survey. A few thoughts about the property. It does have a TVA easement that crosses a portion of it really up next to Veterans Parkway. Doesn't significantly impact the property, and it's interesting that TVA easement is not used for an actual facility, but TVA is unlikely to give up the rights to that easement because they not sure how they might use that in the future. My recollection is this was an easement that was purchased for the Hartsville nuclear plant, which we understand was not pursued beyond some of the initial construction. However, they had purchased all of their right-of-way for the electric lines, but then they have used some of those in our community to run spur lines and other facilities. So it is impacted by that. There's a site buffer that was created along the Berkshire subdivision. That was protected in an easement that's recorded in the deed. And then Middle Tennessee Electric, as one of their first actions, installed a very significant vegetative buffer and installed a chain link fence on the Middle Tennessee Electric property to provide that buffer and separation and also security between the two properties. It does have some sinkholes on there, and as any good farmer will tell you, if you can't row crop it or cut hay off of it or run cattle on it, you probably just leave it alone. And so I think historically, when we look back at this property, we see a lot of areas that were unfarmed or not used in agricultural, and then as we look closer to those, there's a reason why. Perhaps shallow rock, wet soils, sinkholes, and karst features. And I think those give our Parks and Rec staff certainly something to look at as far as programming and open space, and maybe some unique features that they'll be able to incorporate into that area. There's a significant drainage way that comes under Veterans Parkway from the Royal Glen subdivision. And for those of you who may be familiar with this part of our community, it does misbehave from time to time. And so we'll have to reserve that drainage way in there as well and protect that to help manage those extreme storm events in this part of our community. Yes, and I remembered correctly, it does contain floodplain and floodway, but not a Puckett Creek, as I've said here, but that is Overall Creek to the east, and that gives us some opportunity again in this park setting to take advantage of that for a variety of things. And this commission is certainly very familiar with the Greenway and natural properties and natural resources that the city already owns and is operated and maintained by the Parks and Rec Department. So it gives us an opportunity there, whether it's just a park element or some future connection we might look at with a Greenway, Blueway, Bikeway master planning. So last week we held a community meeting. We sent out notices to property owners within 500 feet of this property, as well as within 500 feet of the city-owned property, the 117 acres at 840. Had good attendance there. I would suspect, and Mr. Duke was there, Mr. Williams as well, that we probably had 40 to 50 interested residents there who heard some presentations from Middle Tennessee Electric and city staff, and then also had an opportunity to ask questions and discuss the plans for that. So tonight we have a public hearing scheduled before our Planning Commission, and that's to consider rezoning these properties, and I'll cover that in just a second. And then in the future there would be a city council considering the rezoning, and that would be at a public hearing and first reading and also second reading. And as we look at this property and as we have talked with the mayor and council individually about their vision for use of the property, we realize that 150 acres, there's a good bit of master planning that needs to be done. There's some settling of the dust, I guess I would say, that needs to be done to understand how we may utilize this property, and then from that gives us the opportunity to master plan the infrastructure. It's going to be a very expensive undertaking for this property as for the infrastructure, and as I talked with Director Williams about it, we want to make sure we only have to pay for that once. And so water and sewer and power and roads and access and how we manage the drainage, all of those are going to be important factors, but really what's going to drive the need there will be how we see this property being utilized, and I'll cover that in just a second. So today the property is zoned planned commercial development. Middle Tennessee Electric purchased this property for the very specific purpose of a new corporate center, operations center for their regional office, and then also a corporate headquarters for their corporate office. And so it has a very specific plan, and this is an excerpt of that plan, how they propose to use it, showing the arrangement of buildings and facilities on that property. I show you that to show you how the property is currently zoned today and what's entitled to be used. And as you may well guess, this does not include any of the uses that the city has considered, and so we do need to rezone the property. And so as we looked at perhaps how to rezone the property, we talked internally about the benefits of the property and what its attributes were. We also talked with city staff, and then carried that conversation a little bit further to some one-on-one discussions with the mayor and council. And so this drawing represents a preliminary land use plan of what we heard from the mayor and council. And so what you'll see on here is 92 acres of open space in green, and I would call attention to the outline of the buffer area here, preserving that along the Berkshire subdivision. We think that would be the right thing to do with this land use plan. We have talked about the concept of a school here. We use the latest elementary school that we built and made sure that site plan and the full development would fit on there, and then giving us plenty of room to get access off of Veterans Parkway into the school property, with the idea of having all access and circulation in school zones really restricted to interior to the property and not on Veterans Parkway. And then we also included some zoning, some land use area for what I'll call public and community facilities, and some of the discussion we've had there would be a fire station, perhaps a West Police Precinct. We've talked about a library, a technology center, perhaps workforce development, training opportunities, and some other community facilities that would complement and enhance the other things going on the property, and those being things that would potentially be located there. What I will say is there's not money for any of this. So what we have here is a concept, but it's not vetted or funded to the extent that we have identified budgets or time frame on any of this, but I think it's certainly the first step in moving ahead with considering how this property might develop and how it might need to be fitted with infrastructure and access. And so from this concept, we went to an actual zoning plan, with the idea being that for the uses that we discussed on that previous page, here we wanted to talk about what the zoning needs to be to entitle that. And so the 92.2 acres would be, our request before Planning Commission tonight will be to rezone that to park. And then for the 30 acres that we had identified for school education, we would rezone that to commercial fringe. Question comes up, why do you need commercial fringe? Well, commercial fringe is our lowest zoning category that allows a school by right. We can build a school anywhere on any zoning, but it requires a special use permit. And so our thinking is, if we plan to use that for school, let's zone it so that it's entitled to provide a school. And then for the other things we talked about, the property that's in red, the 26 acres, we propose to rezone that to commercial highway and gateway design overlay 1. Commercial highway is our most permissive commercial zoning, but it also includes the gateway design overlay. To give you some context of what that means, that is the gateway, that is the zoning overlay that we applied to the Medical Center Parkway area. And so if you consider what that does to the property, it limits many of the commercial uses. It also requires a certain building architecture, and then it requires additional open space and landscaping and attention to the development of the property outside the building. And so we think that'd be a good complement to the other things that would be on this property. And with that, I will stop and see if there are any questions or discussions for me or for any of the Parks and Rec staff.
Any questions for Sam?
So based upon what you've just outlined, and this is, I know, probably a tough question to answer, but what do we know about what's going to happen from here, from today moving forward? What do we know? I know that's probably not very much, but.
So when I usually get tough questions at this podium, I turn them over to Trey Duke. That's a little long-standing joke from us. I try to take his part in the city council meeting one night. So
I usually let you.
Actually, we can talk a lot about the short term. So we'll be before the Planning Commission tonight requesting rezoning of this property and the city-owned property to the north side of 840. Regardless of the action of the Planning Commission tonight, we will take those on to council. Part of the land swap agreement was that city rezoned the 117 acres that Middle Tennessee Electric would acquire, and we would rezone that to commercial highway and gateway design overlay 1 for the express purpose of economic development for our community. And so staff's thinking was, while we are working on that rezoning, it made sense to try to tell the whole picture of the city's plan and the city's vision for this 150 acres. And so to the extent that zoning does that and the preliminary land use plan does that, we want to be able to give the public our what information we could at this point. So we'll take that on to city council for a future council meeting, where it will include a public hearing and first reading, and obviously the public's welcome to attend those and offer their comments at the Planning Commission or at City Council. We talked very intentionally internally about the timing of master planning on this property, and so staff's direction is to hold off on too much effort on master planning until we see that the land swap is going through and that the zoning entitlement is in place. And then I think you'll see a concerted effort. My prediction on that is would start after the first of the year. The land would be swapped and the zoning would be in place, and we would then have the entitlements we need to move this forward. And I think the The budget this year includes $3 million from the general fund that would allow the Parks and Rec staff to move forward with the master planning on this. And then there's an additional $5 million for parks use in the, and I'm going to see if I can say this right, to our council members here, Community Investment Trust program that's specifically earmarked for Parks and Recreation or park facilities. The Community Investment Trust is that money that the city is receiving from the sale of our electric department to Middle Tennessee Electric. And those boards have been formed, and the process for managing and distributing those funds and how they'll be used by our community has been spelled out. But there was very specific direction from the mayor and council on some of those funds being earmarked for parks and recreation facilities.
So we're going to meet this evening, and the deal between the city and MTE is going to close December 31st.
Yes, that's a projected time frame.
Or sooner,
Yes.
potentially.
Probably not sooner. The part of the reason that we've started this when we have is it takes about 5 months to rezone a property. When you start, day one, say, hey, I'd like to rezone my property. It takes about 5 months for that process to play out through the various meetings and deadlines and schedules that we have administratively to appear before the Planning Commission and City Council. And so we started that about 2 months ago, actually, with an application to the Planning Commission for that. So we'll get this thing queued up, and we will, my recommendation will be to the City Council is that we delay the second reading on these rezonings until sometime in December to make sure that both parties agree to a closing date and that the terms and conditions of the land swap have been satisfied. And so I would not see us closing that before December 31st. It's also likely that for some reason it could be delayed, but at this point, my thinking is that we'll close on schedule in December the 31st with the zoning in place that's proposed.
And that end of the year will be kind of the catalyst for all the other stuff that needs to happen. As you articulated, there's going to be a lot of master planning work that needs to be done. But those two big pieces need to kind of be done before that happens, before resources are associated with it and so forth. So we're kind of looking at the first quarter of 23 then.
Yes, and we'll know a lot in December. Usually we schedule a closing date for real estate transactions about 30 days out. And so we'll be pretty clear in December on the intent of both parties to go ahead and close the real estate contract that we've agreed to. And so at that point, when it looks clear that the rezonings are going to be in place, that they're ready for second reading, and that the land swap will close, and our Parks and Rec staff would be able to start taking actions as far as the next steps, lining up whether it's a consultant or staff or however they propose to execute the master planning, and they can start actually some of the front end work on that so that can be in place pretty shortly after the first of the year, anticipating all those other dominoes falling.
We really appreciate you giving this presentation. We've had some discussions, obviously, on it in the past, and of course, there was a major article in the newspaper yesterday, and we're, of course, going to be beginning to get questions from people, and of course, there's some emotion that's associated with this in the city, and we want to be able to respond intelligently, should I say, Nate, or diplomatically, or whatever word you want to be able to use.
Maybe informed. Yeah.
Accurately. There you
just
go.
Informed, right? Yeah. So, and you're right. This has been a hot item for our community, and I think the answer that we were asked, how we were challenged at the community meeting, and then just the overall context of this is things change. Yes, we had plans. Yes, Middle Tennessee Electric had plans, but those plans changed, and we're reacting because those plans changed. What changed for Middle Tennessee Electric? Well, before they merged with the Murfreesboro Electric Department, they had a donut hole in their service area, 40 square miles, 70,000 customers, but their facilities in Rutherford County were located inside that donut hole. And so when I talked with Chairman Jones about that, and we talked about the campus, he said, we're looking for this property, and this is back when they were working through their zoning plan. We're looking to try to increase our ability to serve our community, to serve our customers. And this 840 and Veterans location did that for them then. And so then I asked him, after the merger, I said, so what's changed? He said, we now have 66,000 new customers and that donut hole filled in. And when they look at their density and distribution of customers, when you add that 60,000, all of a sudden that center of customer base in Rutherford County then focused inside the city of Murfreesboro. And they made a logistics and demographics decision to maintain their current operations, because now the density of customers and the ability to serve their community was going to be achieved by their existing facilities. So they're investing significant money in their existing facilities, updating, adding, expanding, and upgrading their facilities. And I think from the city standpoint, we're happy to have them as a corporate customer on New Salem Highway. It's a good corporate place. It's a good front door to our community coming in off the New Salem Highway interchange. What changed for the city? We had a very significant plan, a very impressive plan for that park, but the problem was we didn't have the money. And so as we faced at that time the financial challenges that our community was in, our mayor and council had to make some hard decisions on what we fund and how we fund it. And so those two factors led us to where we are today. And as we look at the opportunities available to us, having Middle Tennessee Electric with their access and resources available to them in community and economic development, like TVA, like the Middle Tennessee Industrial Development Agency, and other, the state of Tennessee, and other economic development participants, it gives the city a broader net than we had individually to attract new jobs and new employment there. This 150 acres also gives us an opportunity, and one of the things that I think is very helpful is just the number of rooftops that are around this facility. When you look at, say for example, Sportscom, located on two major routes, it's not surrounded by residential, it's surrounded by some other things. But when I look at this property, in this map in particular, I see rooftops, and rooftops are what provides customers to our Parks and Rec facilities. And so that gives us a great opportunity to have a community facility surrounded by rooftops. Not that there's a problem with those others, but this one gives us that opportunity because it is so embedded in a residential area.
Well, once again, thank you very much for the presentation. It's much needed information and will be very helpful, I think.
Let me ask a question. Could you speak a little bit to the process for determining the amenities that are going into the park so the public can kind of be aware of what that process is for determining what's
Sure,
going on?
Councilman, I don't want to get too far ahead of ourselves because we haven't really began programming whatsoever. This is, like Mr. Huddleston said, this is about zoning right now. I'm looking at it. I can say when we look at this layout versus what we were looking at the other property, this gets us a little bit more excited for what we could do with the property. So we don't want to speak and, like I said, get ahead of ourselves and the types of amenities we're going to choose and what will be out there.
Thinking more process than I am more the process.
Right, yeah. So we'll engage the community. We'll look at some of the research we've already done, and then we'll also look at the existing amenities that we know that we need more of and the ones that are very popular. I'll say just, early on, we always talk about trails are popular, pavilions are popular. Some of the things that we need are more open space, that type of thing. So at some point, when we partner with Mr. Huddleston and his team to really start digging in, we'll bring that back to this commission and kind of give more of a broader picture of what we're looking at. But right now, we're looking at more of a passive type of park, not a regional athletic complex by any means or anything like that.
We've had that one public hearing I guess, public meeting? Will there be another, or will there be another opportunity for the public to input this?
When it comes to the layout for the park, we'll engage like we do with any new amenity. We'll have some public meetings. I think right now here in present, we've got the Planning Commission tonight, and then it'll proceed with the zoning questions that are being considered by the council.
All right.
But all that, we wouldn't really even start to think about until the first of the year if all things go well. Is that a fair assessment?
Yes. And I think as we look at this colored map here, parks can be in any zone. And so there's nothing with this plan that says that we can't amenitize the other 56 acres of this property. And I think one of the other things that's exciting opportunity for us is to integrate some park elements into some of the other uses that we might provide on this site, so that it becomes an integrated park property and not as, separated by these zoning boundaries. And certainly the types of things that you could do there, and the way this property itself lends to that, I think it's going to be a great opportunity for a really, really significant addition to our community on the west side of town.
We're doing some due diligence right now on what that could look like. I know Dr. Duke and I met and talked about how we might be able to really benefit from each other, being next to each other. So we're doing some basic work right now and excited about which way this is trending.
Very good. Excellent discussion and presentation, Sam Huddleston. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Chairman Miller. Glad to be here today.
I think I can see another jewel in the city of Murfreesboro crown in the future, so it's very exciting. And looking at our agenda, speaking of jewel, J.P. Powers, you're going to speak to us about our Fiscal soccer indoor facility.
Yes, sir. Thank you, Chairman Miller and Commissioners, for having me here today. It's good to see you all again. So as Chairman Miller just said, I'm here to discuss the proposed indoor turf fee schedule for the new indoor turf field at the Fiscal Soccer Complex. Essentially, I'll begin by just kind of speaking a little bit into the process of how we got to the point where we got here with these fees. What we thought would be prudent on our end would be to do some background research into similar indoor turf soccer facilities. And really, we actually expanded that search nationwide, and we reached out to, I believe, between 10 and 15 different various local government agencies, as well as some private entities that operate similar complexes and facilities, just to kind of get an idea not only how their fees are structured and how they do things, but also, specifically what they charge for their fees. And then we kind of use that to compare it to our own established fee structure, mainly looking at our turf fields to kind of come up with an appropriate number, an appropriate fee schedule. So what we decided was best to use as a base, really, to start from, was the hourly rental rate per field. And I apologize, it's the third line item on the little spreadsheet you guys have there. So we really use that as the base. The number that we reached, again, based on reaching out to these different organizations and different groups, was about $150 general rate hourly per field. So what I did from there was compared that to what we currently charge for our outdoor synthetic turf fees, just to get an idea, because we do want this indoor facility to, really be a premium facility that we are charging a little bit more for, and really kind of, marketing it that way and using it that way as a premium facility. So essentially what we assessed is that is a 25% increase over what we charge for the outdoor turf fields. And that seemed reasonable to us. It seemed about right, and that was kind of the point where we wanted to land. It seemed like a good price point. So from there, I applied the 25% increase across the board for all of the other applicable fees, from the outdoor turf field to the indoor turf field. The only additions are membership fee, which is still TBD at this point, but we are anticipating establishing a membership program for the indoor facility, because we are going to be adding amenities such as various exercise equipment and different other options that are, potentially outside the scope of soccer even, that we can offer at that facility. And then also associated with that would be a general admission fee. Right now, we've just assessed it at a $5 admission fee. That's mainly to be assessed during off hours where we don't have anything scheduled or established going on during the field. If we have, like a youth member of the community that wants to just kind of come set up their own cones and do a little kick around and practice and warm up or do something before a game, we want to be able to accommodate that and welcome them. So we just thought that a modest admission fee of $5 would be able to accommodate members of the community that way. And then the last addition that we don't currently assess for our outdoor turf fields is the team rental fee. Essentially what that is we anticipate a lot of leagues and a lot of teams expressing interest in this facility. Again, it is going to be a premium complex that we foresee a lot of interest in. So we did want to provide some kind of incentive or discount, if you will, for a team that is going to commit to, booking something, say, on an 8-week basis, which is what I proposed here, where they would have a regularly scheduled practice time. So that fee is essentially based on what they would be charged hourly for 8 weeks with a 10% discount. Again, just to incentivize someone committing to an 8-week time frame and getting their team in there at all hours. And then just to kind of highlight just a couple of the facilities that we contacted just to give a basis. As you may remember, I migrated over from California recently, so I was able to pull some contacts out there and kind of get the lowdown on what some of the more premier facilities are in California. So I reached out to the Valley Soccer Center in Chatsworth, JR Sports Indoor Soccer Field in Paris, and then the Soccer Central Indoor Sports in Watsonville. And then I know that Brittany also did quite a bit of research locally where she has a lot more expertise than I do. I know she reached out to Williamson County. I think the Robert Ring Indoor Arena was one of the ones that we reached out to, among some others as well. So just wanted to highlight that. That was kind of the process that went into establishing this fee schedule, and that's how we've arrived at where we are today. And then if you guys have any questions for me, I'd be more than happy to answer those.
The research that we did for the local folks, the Williamson counties and so forth, I know you said, hey, we think we're going to have a really good facility and we're going to charge for that.
Yes, sir.
What did you find out about the local folks? What are they charging by comparison to what you got here?
So it's a little tough to answer specifically because one of the things that I found that surprised me a little bit and was a nice learning experience is that every facility is different. A lot of the complexes out here actually have a different fee structure than what we have at the Siegel Soccer Complex, where they will do things such as they will charge fees based on the amount of players that are using a field, rather than just charging an hourly rate or a team rate, which is what we're proposing. Which we discussed that idea and we're open to it. The issues that we saw with, structuring the fees in such a way is that all of our clubs that would be using these fields talk to each other. And, we're going to have a team with 12 players on it practicing, and then they're going to find out that this team that has 10 players is practicing at a discounted rate for the same amount of time. And that would create an issue for us. So our goal really was to achieve parity with this structure and just try to apply an equal hourly rate that is, again, equally applicable to everyone in there. So that was basically, to kind of circle back to your question, that was what I found, was that a lot of the facilities out here are different on a case-to-case basis. But we thought that the best option for us would really be to apply our currently established turf fee schedule and just modify it for the indoor fee, but keep it as close to what we have as we can.
I'm just curious to know, even though they use a different calculation to come up with the fees, how we compare. Can you remember what any of those numbers were, even though they use a different calculation?
I don't have those numbers, the specific numbers off the top of my head, but Brittany might be able to speak to that a little better than I can.
Yeah, so most of the numbers were around the $150 per hour. It was between $115 and $150 an hour. Most of those facilities, too, are not as big as ours. We're kind of a monopoly of having this big of a center. So where most of them has got 1 to 2 fields, we can fit 3 fields and have 3 different games going at one time in this facility for short-sighted stuff. So, but they were around $115 to $150 an hour. And then they had a general admission fee too, like we're doing with the off times, and that was anywhere between $4 and $5 for their general admission too.
Gotcha. Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
If I could add one thing, Mr. Cunningham, Brittany alluded to it, but there's really not much anything like this around. You know, this is a 100,000 square foot indoor facility. So we're setting the trend and establishing what the rates are based on what we have, and I think it's a good starting point. And something I think we've all discussed about is we need to get something down, but that doesn't say it has to stay that way forever. So we can get into this, we can use this model for a year, and then we can adjust as needed based on our demand and what we can supply on that as well.
Right. Yeah, again, that follow-up was just more of a curiosity thing than anything else. It sounds like you woke up early, stayed up late, did some work on putting this together, which is, good. But contextually, we get down the road and we say now we've got results, it's up, it's running, we've got customers that have come in or wanted to use it, and I'll have a baseline in my mind of, we had this many people that were doing this, and maybe we missed out on somebody, and I'll have some context on that piece.
I think for us, we're getting dangerously close to this facility being complete. We're looking at probably November, when we can finally have it open to the public. So we also want to give our partners who use our facilities a budget number to have in mind so they can understand what's coming. And they understand that this is all new and we're going to work towards the best model we can. There might be some adjustments in that, but I think they've done a tremendous job coming up in the research that's happened so far.
Absolutely. Great job.
Do we have it says 2022, is the end of the year, is that going to change? Are you doing an evaluation, or do we need to say 2022, 23 as far as the schedule for these rates?
I don't think it would be limited just for this year. If there was an adjustment, it'd be from here moving forward. If there was an adjustment, we would come back and bring it before the commission. So once the fee's set, that's what we'll continue with. Is that what you're asking?
Well, I was just concerned that
Right.
you're talking about for planning for these programs to know that
I
they
think
can
maybe
be
we should-
guaranteed this rate
Right.
through 23.
Maybe we should say starting 2022.
There you
and
go.
then
Yeah.
That would be a better way.
Might be
to-
another way of phrasing it so they can have some
Right.
dependable
Right.
fee schedule.
Can I ask, I know in the past, we've had conversations about discounts or pricing specifically for Murfreesboro citizens or clubs based out of Murfreesboro. Is that appropriate for this type of facility? Is that something that was considered?
It's something that we look at in everything that we do. So I think we can go into how we structure the rest of our affiliate programs. If you want to give Thomas or JP, give kind of a brief explanation of where we stand with that. We think this is a kind of a standalone facility that doesn't really apply.
Yeah, we've offered a discount to our affiliate team program. We've increased that discount. I think it's at 20% now for affiliate teams utilizing our turf fields and practicing. So if you're from Murfreesboro, you get a discounted rate. On a premium facility like this, we didn't necessarily consider that because it's kind of a luxury to play indoors, practice indoor, train indoors like this. It's not something that we would expect our normal tax base to utilize and pay for. So we structured the fees for that individual use. But we can certainly look at offering that discount as well.
I will also just add that I actually did ask that question to many of the organizations that I reached out to in researching the facilities, and I actually did not encounter one that offered that discount with their indoor facility. Every organization seems to kind of treat it the same way that Thomas was describing, where it is a premium facility, and they just kind of have their set established rates for that, even though they do have, a resident discount for their, natural grass or synthetic turf fields. So,
Okay.
yeah.
It's probably based on the profile of the customers. If you got mostly those kinds of folks that are actually going to be using it, and that's probably why they set it the way they did, and what your research would have found out, I would think.
Within this culture, there's an expectation that premium facilities like this will come with an additional cost. So I think our customers and our citizens will be comfortable with this model, but we certainly are open to changes. Everything we do is subject to change. It might work today, and it may have to change tomorrow. What worked 10 years ago might work today, so we try to be flexible.
Also, with a facility like this, what we're talking about is just not just soccer. A football team, if MTSU is training for getting ready for a bowl game and it's raining all week, they can rent this and practice there that week or something like that. Or we can do concerts, or we can do. There's just a wide variety of things we can do with 100,000 square feet that is covered indoor.
We do a Super Bowl?
It's, if you haven't been out there.
In name only.
Yeah. If you haven't been out there and you'd like to see it, like I said, we're venturing, close to a month away from getting done. But I'd encourage you, if you want to see it, give me a call. I'd be glad to take you out there and give you a tour. We're excited to unveil it as soon as possible.
It's huge, standing there, looking at it, looking in it.
So the new thing now is you can go by at night and see that we've got half of the lights on, so you can see what it looks like. And it's like we said, I think this is a tremendous amenity for our community, and I think it's proving that the other improvements that have happened at Siegel, along with this, are making it just a premium facility.
Definitely another jewel for the crown, there's no question. Do I have a recommendation, or do I have a motion that recommends that we approve this fee schedule to be implemented for the indoor soccer complex once it's completed?
Move approval.
Have approval, do I have a second?
Second.
All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? There are none. So motion and fee schedule passed. JP, thank you so much. Brittany, thank you for your work on this. And Thomas, I know you're always involved too, so.
All right, thank you, Commissioners.
Yep, thank you so much. Priscilla Murray is next on our agenda. Priscilla's gonna tell us about a spa day or spa days. How about that?
So I'm seeking approval to do a Pamper Yourself Spa Day for ages 5 through 15 for our youth. It will require a cost of $15 plus a $10 activity fee, but those monies will be used. Kids can come in and do manicures, pedicures, facials, and then we'll have probably 2 activities, like we'll make scrubs or maybe a facial that they can take home. And I feel it's important because our kids go through a lot, whether it be school, sports, or life. It's just a way for them to come in and relax. I mean, we get vacation days, we take well days. So it's just a way for the kids to come in and have a spectacular time.
Spectacular, I like that.
Spectacular.
Any questions for Priscilla? Can Bart come and get a pedicure?
Bart's gonna be working. Oh, no. What?
Do I have a motion that we approve this new Pamper Yourself Spa Day activity and its fees?
I move approval.
Do I have a second?
Second.
All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Of course, there are none.
Thank you.
Sounds like fun, Priscilla. Come back and tell us how it went.
I'd like to speak on Priscilla's behalf. She always finds a way to help the kids in our community experience things that they may not originally experience. Her and her brave staff took 40 inner city kids to Dollywood this summer, and it was a life-changing experience for a lot of them, and I think for some of Miss Priscilla's staff. But we commend them for taking on that venture. That was a huge endeavor, and I know it changed the life of a lot of those kids. It gives them something to look forward and to dream towards. So I applaud Priscilla and her crew.
That's incredible. Priscilla, thank you so much. Okay, next item on the agenda, Mark Owens is here, and he's going to give us a report on St. Clair Street Senior Center.
Thank you, Chairman and members of the committee. Let me start off by saying I'm kind of disappointed in the committee that you had a guy from Oregon here and nobody brought up the Oregon-Georgia game. Overreaching, so. Thank y'all for having me today. What y'all have in front of y'all is the St. Clair Senior Center annual report for 2021 to 2022. It just highlights everything that we've done in the past budget year, all our trips, leisure activities, recreational activities, educational programs, and everything in between. Does anybody have any questions?
Questions for Mark? I know there are all kinds, like looking at all these programs, and you guys are very busy over there.
And if you look at the cover, the St. Clair bucket list, that's actually painted on our wall that the seniors did. They painted that themselves.
Any questions? Thank you so much, Mark.
You.
Man, know you're very busy there.
That's
and
right.
Our hats off to you and your staff.
Thank you very much.
Something that's been a real challenge for Mark and his team is, if you notice, their numbers this year have exceeded the pre-COVID numbers. So not only have they come back, they've increased the participation there, and that's unseen throughout the state. Murfreesboro, one of the leading senior centers in the state, and they lean on Mark a lot throughout to help get other senior centers up and to the standards they have. So.
Very good. Very nice report here in front of us too, Mark. Thank you so much. Okay, Bart, you gonna give us an update on our sports comm?
Mr. Chairman, members of the commission, today I want to give you a recap of all our programs, camps, and activities that were held this past summer. As you are aware, COVID has really hit us the last 2 summers, but this year we jumped back in the loop and really came on with a strong summer and finished very well. First off, let me get this started here. We started off the summer as we opened the Memorial Day weekend and opening of Vero Beach. As you're aware, there were a lifeguard shortage all over the nation this past summer, but Kyle Goss and his staff did a great job of staffing Sportscom and Patterson Park with well-trained staff throughout the summer. And along with that, Kenneth Honeycutt ran the concession stand, which supplied food for all our hungry swimmers and campers throughout the summer. Once we got Vero Beach closed, we started our sports camp throughout the summer. We had 6 sports camps, and we also had over 70 people campers that went to these camps during the whole summer. Each camp had over, like I said, 70 and participated in a specific sport during the morning hours, and then went out for lunch, and then went to a day of swimming at Vero Beach. Our next camp was our Guard Start Camp, where our instructors taught the art of lifeguarding and how to prepare a safe and enjoyable experience for all our swimmers under their supervision, and hopefully they would become future lifeguards for all our aquatic activities. Next up was our Ultimate Babysitting Camp, which was offered twice during the summer with over 25 participants per camp. The camp's objective was to provide a safe and secure environment for young babies and young children under their supervision. Allison Davison, our Wellness Fitness Coordinator, will now be offering a program year-round to private groups, and they can contact her at the Sportscom. Vero Beach was closed. Hold on just a second. Excuse me just a second. We came up with the cheer camp the next week, and we had over about 50 to 60 cheerleaders in each camp. As we approached each morning, we had them all come in for the gym, met them, did techniques and cheers all morning long, and then came back. We even had an exhibition that ended the camp where we brought their parents, grandparents in, and had a full house for them. Next up was our volleyball camp, as we had over probably 40 to 50 kids in there for volleyball, as they were taught the technique of spiking, setting, and even how to do the proper techniques to learn the volleyball skills that they could use in future years. As you can see out front of our Sportscom now, we do have a new addition as we improve the front entrance. As you can see, it's all handicap accessible, and we'll be getting ready for our future events, especially a big one coming up in about a couple of weeks. After we closed Borough Beach, we had what we call the Mom and Tot Time, where we brought in mothers with their young children and little toddlers, and we offered that for 2 weeks. And they could come into our zero depth area where they could wade into the pool and not have all the kids and older children, as they were already back in school. As you can see in our collage here, we had a lot of camps this summer. We did have some interesting facts I'd want to mention. We had a cornhole tournament at the end of spring, and as we were having this cornhole tournament in our gym, the director told me we had the #1 player in America that was participating in our cornhole tournament. And I asked him to point him out to me, and he pointed him out, and you could watch him throwing the little bean bags through the hole in the cornhole, and if they didn't go right into the hole, they were on the edge. So, I mean, it was amazing. He was the #1 player in America, and even a couple of weeks after that, I did he was spotted on ESPN up in New Jersey somewhere playing. As the director of the tournament, I'm going to say his first name is Brian. I was talking to him a week or so later, and he mentioned that, you had to leave Sportscom to get to the airport. And I asked him, I said, well, where exactly are you going? He said, well, I'm going to New York. I said, you are for what? He said, I'm going to the New York Knicks game. I said, oh, really? Well, that's great. I said, what, you just going to see the game? He said, no, I'm a motivational speaker and try to get the players ready for the game. And I got to talking to him, and even a week later, he was headed out to Golden State to talk to the Golden State Warriors before their game with the Celtics, and a week later that, said he went to Boston. So that was very interesting of a guy at Sportscom, coming in and going to speak to the Boston Celtics before they took the floor for the NBA championship games. He also said, I said, well, you won't get home till late. He said, well, no. He said, as soon as I give them my speech and get them motivated, they go out to warm up, I leave, go to the airport, get in a plane, and he comes right back to Murfreesboro Airport, right beside Sportscom in a private plane. So that was very interesting. A few things we do have coming up very shortly. We do have a Bacon Festival, which is this Saturday from 11 to 7 on the grounds of McKnight Park and Sportscom. And also, if you'd like to come out there, it's going to have food trucks, going to have music, and also have a mechanical pig if anybody would like to come out and take their chances. We also are going to have a fall festival on October 22nd, 11 to 7, and also we're having a huge event here in a couple of weeks, and I'm sure Melinda will touch on that at the Miracle Field. One last thing, as I mentioned earlier, we had a lifeguard shortage this past year, so our aquatic staff decided we're going to offer lifeguarding classes year-round, where we hope to have lifeguards available for Sportscom and Patterson, where we won't run into that shortage that the rest of the country ran into. And they did a great job this summer. We only had maybe 1 week where we were a little bit short due to school being started, and all our kids were students and going to college or even back to high school. So hopefully, if you can see, this has been it was a great summer for us. During the COVID years, it was light because of the COVID situation, but now I think we're back to normal. We're enjoying record crowds for the summer. It has tapered off a little bit now due to school being in, but hopefully it'll all pick up with all our sports activities coming back into action. So if you've got any questions or comments, I'd be glad to answer them.
Any questions for Bart? Sportscom?
So what time's the mechanical pig start?
It starts at 11, but you might not get in line. It'd probably be a big line for that, but it's interesting.
I noticed that last year. So is this like the second year for the
Third year.
Third year.
And I know Mr. Wright and Mr. Shacklett, appreciate them coming on board. I was trying to think of how many years Mr. Shacklett has coached Little League Baseball, probably as many years as I've been employed as a recreation department. How many years has that, Bill?
47 years.
That's more than I've done.
Not by much, though.
And that's amazing. That's
We were
amazing.
also in elementary school together, and let me tell you, if you knew Bart in his younger days, he was quite the athlete. Quite the athlete.
been quite a while ago. And I know Miss Bonner, I even found out I played against her husband at Franklin County, and he was quite a ball player too, and played at MTSU. He was really, really good.
I love hearing about that game.
Our last game was at the Tobacco Bowl, which is the old Tobacco Bowl in Hartsville, which was ended in a tie. That's how long it's been. You ended in ties then. You didn't have an overtime or anything. It was a tie. So.
Excellent report, Bart.
Okay.
Thank you so much, and thank you for the job that you do at the Sports Com. And as mentioned, it definitely has your soul in over there in that facility. So thank you and your staff for everything.
Thank you.
I don't think Bart emphasized enough how much the lifeguard shortage impacted not just SportsCom, but parks throughout the nation, and networking with other state aquatics folks throughout Tennessee. Bart and the aquatic staff did a phenomenal job of retaining, because that was the issue, was the retaining of the young lifeguards. They created an environment where they were happy to come to work. They enjoyed working together, made it fun for them, and that's what I think created such a successful summer. Talking with some of the young lifeguards in particular, they looked forward to going and seeing their friends at work, and that's kind of culture you've got to cultivate to retain. So the success is by that culture Bart brings to SportsCom every day.
We were all about to have to get certified to lifeguard again. We were that close.
Thank you. Very good. Okay, last on our agenda, Melinda Tate always takes us home, but gives us a whole lot to do before she does it. So,
Mr. Chairman, as she's getting set up, I think she's going to mention something about it, but lots of questions about the National Miracle League All-Star Game coming to Murfreesboro in just a couple weeks, September 16th and September 17th. We're really excited to host that at McKnight Park at our Miracle League field. Thomas has some information on how we're going to be able to live stream it. We won't have a ton of space for every spectator who would like to come. You're more than welcome to come and see what's going on. But Thomas, explain how people can live stream what's going on.
Well, it's a phenomenal event, and there'll be lots of action. But for the field itself, our space is limited, particularly on the Miracle Field. So we're trying to reserve that seating for our families and immediate family of the players. We've got 120 players coming into Murfreesboro to participate in 6 different games. They'll start at 9 a.m. on Saturday morning. Of course, the whole park, we're closing out SportsCom, but we're creating a special event area within that park itself. But watching the games themselves, if you want to watch the games, we encourage everyone to tune in to Channel 3. Any of our Facebook pages will have the link, but Channel 3 is going to live stream it, and they're miking up our production team, so the fun of the Miracle League will be, is evident in the live stream as it is when you're there in person. So.
very good. Okay, Melinda.
Good afternoon. We can start by talking about the Miracle League All-Star. Thomas, is it a tournament or is it games?
It's just games. There's over 300 Miracle Leagues throughout the United States, so 120 adult or youth players were selected throughout those leagues, and then they come here. We put them on teams, and they'll play games similar to what we do on a typical Saturday morning with the Miracle League players from Murfreesboro. In terms of game experience, there's not a whole lot more we can do to improve that. We're just wanting others to come in and experience that. So there'll be 6 games. One of those games will be a competitive game where there will be an umpire and there will be outs. However, the rest of the games will be a typical Miracle League game where everybody bats, everybody has an opportunity. So.
Okay. I think on my slide when it comes up it'll say tournament, but it's games. We have got so much going on in the fall, and we'll start with outdoor yoga. It was so popular in August, we've decided to continue that. Saturdays in September at Patterson Park Community Center outside from 9 to 10 a.m. And on the 10th is Tai Chi. It's $4 a person. And again, the Miracle League All-Star National Games will be broadcast live on Channel 3 and our Facebook Live St. Clair Senior Center, our craft sale, Friday, September 16th from 9 a.m. to 3 p.m. and Saturday, September 17th from 9 a.m. to 1 p.m. It's free, open to the public. There'll be lots of fun handmade crafts. And speaking of arts, the Greenway Art Festival, Saturday, September 17th from 10 a.m. to 4 p.m. This is always a very popular event for us. It's along the trail, mostly shaded at Old Fort Park near Kids Castle. We have, I think, close to 70 artists that will be there. And if you've never been, a lot of artists get their start here. We've had some artists from 15, 16 years ago that just started showing their works publicly, and now that's all they do. It's, you'll see their works in a lot of homes around town and nationwide too. There will be entertainment, live music, food trucks, good fun for the whole family. Our city closed tennis tournament will also be in September 23rd through the 25th. You can register online. We've got 3 divisions, adult, youth, and wheelchair. And you can go online at the Murfreesboro Parks and Rec website, murfreesboroparks.com, and look for the Adams Tennis page, and you can register online there. The deadline to register is, September 19th coming up. The entry fee is $25 per event. Registration for youth basketball opens October 1st, and practice will begin at 10 different locations around town. And the league information, you can register at McFadden Community Center, Sportscom, Patterson Park Community Center, main office at Parks and Rec at Barfield Crescent Park, or you can register online. This is something new to us this year, the indoor team triathlon. And the team members consist of 2 to 3 people, so you don't have to do it all. And all participants will receive a t-shirt. There'll be water and snacks provided, and the top 5 teams will receive awards at the conclusion of the event. And you need to register by September 22nd. You can do that online as well. Our puppy plunge, everybody loves the puppy plunge. Saturday, October 1st from 10 a.m. to 1 p.m. at Burrow Beach. If you haven't been, it's a lot of fun, a lot of good photos. I had a hard time picking just one. St. Clair Senior Center Health Expo 2022, Thursday, October 6th from 9 a.m. to 12 p.m. Free healthcare info, free screenings, assessments, free snacks, giveaways, door prizes, lots of free stuff for your health. Last year for the middle half, October 8th, 7 a.m. start time. The limit is 1,500 participants, and registration is still open. You can register at themiddlehalf.com. Coming up in October, I'm just listed a few things. All of these are on our website. McFadden Fall Fest, Frightensburg, Barfield Bash, Old Scream Road, Harvest Days, the MIPP plant sale, which is not scary, but it does happen in October, Spooky Splash, and the Community Fall Fest at Patterson Park. So be on the lookout for those. And we've already had questions about the Murfreesboro Christmas Parade. It will be held Sunday, December 11th, and the theme is Christmas Through the Ages. And if you want to be in the parade, The online application will be available October 1st on our website. And as always, you could go to the website, murfreesboroparks.com, and we are feverishly putting all of our events on the website. So bear with us. We're working as hard as we can. We've got a lot to put on there. On the calendar, you can see every dot represents a day that something is going on. And of course, our social media, Facebook pages, something for everyone. Does anyone have any questions?
As always, Melinda, there's a lot going on.
Yes.
Thank you and our staff. I mean, we couldn't do it without you, and we're very blessed to have all these opportunities.
Yes, we are. Thank you.
Is there any other new business to come, or any other business to come before the commission? If not, we'll adjourn. Thank you so much for being here.